Hello and welcome to Board Game Bonkers. I'm Jay Sears and this is Under the Meeple Lights Season 2. Today's guest is Will Brown from Hungry Gamer, which is a YouTube channel. Welcome, Will.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for staying up late, making me get up
Right.
early on a Sunday. In school right now. I'm out of school, still waking up early. It's all right. I got to get ready. I actually have one of your countrymen coming to stay at my house for a week starting on Tuesday. So we have Mark Dainty from Not Board Gaming's coming to hang out here. I'm not sure if you know him or not.
Yes. So that should be fun and that.
Dear listeners, we don't know what you're going to get here from me.
So while you're sipping away, let me just briefly explain before we fully introduce you, Will, and you can explain what you're all about. So this is a show where we present questions to our guests, which are in this bowl. We'll be drawing out 9 questions and presenting a scenario at the end. Of course, you have no idea what the questions are or the scenario. So before we dive into that, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, Will?
Sure. So I run Hungry Gamer, which is a YouTube channel, though. Along with that, I also do the Boards and Brews podcast, which we also record video. And more people seem to watch the video cast than listen to the podcast. I guess looking at my dumb face is funnier than not looking at my dumb face, I guess. Not quite sure. But we do previews and reviews and playthroughs and how to play videos. And since it's like in the zeitgeist now, I don't take any money for my previews. We have to now be very clearly say that there are no thousands of dollars coming my way to do a preview ever. So I wouldn't have said this like 3 months ago, but now I got to make that super clear. You may have seen me. I'm the guy with the picture of the guy chomping on the box. That's me.
Yeah, it's not unmistakable, is it? And yeah, you're quite right as well. I think, given what's going on in the industry, I think everyone's been extra careful about whether they're getting paid or not for reviews.
Now you are paying me several £1,000s for this, right?
Well, of course, how else would they get you on the show?
Oh, good. Just kidding, everybody. He's not paying me. But if you would like to pay us, listeners, we will accept money up to the price of a pint. That sounds fair, right?
Well, I'll go with that. I'll be gin instead. Might be a bit pricier than a pint.
Ooh, that could be a spin-off podcast, pricier than a pint.
Well, it could well be. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know what you're going to talk about there, but I like it. I like where we're going with this. We'll workshop this, and this is like the worst audio anyone's ever had on a podcast, but I hope it stays in.
Well, just as well we've got editing equipment.
Yeah, well, that's the problem because it's not pricier than a pint. You can't buy that new editing equipment to chop this out. It's a very slippery slope we have here.
Well, we'll see how the questions go, shall we? So, when you're ready, well, we'll dive into our first question.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so question number 1 is coming out the pot. So let's see what number 1 brings us today. So, do you have any routines you use to improve your energy and focus? Well, we've seen one, you got a cup of coffee.
I don't have any routines per se. However, I think that comes from my third life. So I have my board game life, I have my teacher life, and I just quit the stage actors union. So up until like 4 weeks ago, I was also a professional stage actor. And so with about 20 plus years of training there, I think that's where most of the energy comes from. Like, it doesn't matter how tired I am. We get the camera set up. It doesn't matter how early I woke up, whatever it is. Camera's on, we're recording, or I'm going out there. It's like, okay, these people have paid their good money. In my case, sat there and watched an advert, right? To see whatever nonsense I'm going to spout. They deserve me at my full energy, no matter what. So it's just kind of turn it on. So I guess that's not really a routine, just trained through years of playing make believe for a living.
And sometimes it's that routine and habit that gets us going, not necessarily just that purpose. Usually that routine and that familiarity in terms of what you do every day sometimes gets you up and going.
Yep. Yeah. And it's hard not to have energy when you get to talk about something that you like, or even if it's a game that I don't really like, it's still, I'm getting to talk about the stuff. And there's a little bit of a excitement to the fact that somebody wants to tune in and listen to what I have to say about something that I like. And so that in itself is also really exciting. It has an excitement to it. And I don't know about you, but I live for comments on videos and things. I love it when people comment because that means they're actually paying attention. They're talking, and I want to get in there and respond. Unless it's the trolls, and then not so much there.
I call them keyboard warriors. That's what I call them.
Yeah, I mentioned Mark Dainty earlier. Every now and then, when I get a real bad keyboard warrior coming at me with something, I'll send Mark a message. I'll say, Mark, would you come yell at this troll in the most British way possible? And he'll come in and he'll make a long comment, a long like paragraph of all these things. I was like, I don't know half of what any of that means. It's full of UK slang and it's great and it makes me happy every time.
Well, you don't want some Scottish slang, yeah, I can tell you.
Well, I'll tell you, there's he's from nor- the north of England, somewhere Yorkshire, I think, is where he's from, somewhere around there. But yeah, now if it was real thick Scottish slang, I'd have no clue what's being said. On a side, I want to talk about Scotland for a second. I did the Edinburgh Fringe Fest, but also my wife and I took a trip all around the UK, and we went to um, Glasgow, and it was in December. And the fact that it was still light out at like 11 p.m., like, what is happening in your country? It was just the weirdest thing. We're like walking around, we're like leaving a bar late at night. We're like, wait a minute, we're just walking down the street, totally fine, little rainy, just astounding. I don't know how close you are to Glasgow, but it's one of the best places we've ever been.
So it's going to say so everyone can keep drinking and find a way home.
That's we just drank enough, so it seemed like it was late. Yeah, but anyhow, sorry. I as you will learn about me. I will tangent on anything at all possible. So we met you. I'm gonna try to keep on track. I know we got 8 more questions here.
We have. Well, let's move on to a second question, and well, let's see what comes out this time. That's a nice question to start with. It's what I call a fluffy question. So,
Everybody, hey, if you're not seeing this, this is a huge fishbowl filled with questions. It's
hmm,
it's so many things. It's so many questions. It's astounding.
do you know how many questions you started with? Have a guess.
I'm gonna say 150.
Close, 120.
Wow. I can't even think of the 120 questions.
Well, it's tough. The first season wasn't too bad. 120. Second season, another 120. It gets tough.
So by season 5, we're gonna get the really weird stuff.
Well, wait till season three comes out. So let's move on to question two then. Well, so what's the best thing to have come from the board game industry?
Oh, that's a hard question. The best thing? I'm gonna go with, for me personally, it is the structured socialization of board gaming. And no one believes me, but I'm actually an extreme introvert and I like people, but seeing people and talking to people, sometimes I'm like, I don't know what you say, which is one of the reasons why I thrive on stage because you don't have to be yourself on stage. You're being somebody else. What do I say to this person? It's been written down for me. So all that's there. But when you get a group of people together and you're playing board games, there's a structure that's there. There's something you can always have that conversation about. And I even talk about with my friends sometimes. Like I could be a very awkward person, but that structure is there, and it's something that you can talk about, you can engage in. The games will create conversation as you go because somebody does something crazy or somebody does something that should not have worked and it did. And so I think for me, I think that's the best thing about it.
Yeah, there was actually Watch It Played did a YouTube video around mental health and the importance of the board game industry. And one of those elements came out of that well, which is really fascinating.
I had no idea. Now I have to go chase this down.
It's, I would say it's something worth checking out because it does cross in that element of, it brings people together and it gives a structure and a bit of focus that some people might not have in their life.
Yeah, and it's also it allows it's easier to sometimes get people to come out. It's
Absolutely.
like, oh, hey, you want to hang out? Not really. You want to come play a game? Yeah, okay, I can do that. You want to come have play a game, have a beer? Yeah, I can do that. So yeah, I love that about it. And I think it really came to the forefront during the pandemic, where people who are stuck in their pods suddenly it's these things to do, and the rise of different games you could play over Zoom. I think of things like Forgotten Waters, which was just fantastic for that kind of uh, socialization during that. In fact, and I've talked about this before, during the pandemic, my wife and I, we moved to a new house that has a backyard, which was a huge deal. And we actually set up games of Forgotten Waters during the pandemic where different groups, we would come, like 4 different groups of people, and we set up 12 feet away tables around the yard. And I got a little projector and we'd project the game board onto the wall of the house, and we could all play, and it was something we could all do. And we actually set up a second grill across the yard so everyone could make their food. But we would not have seen these people were it not for board games.
Yeah, there's so much goodness that's come from it, and it's certainly one of the best industries you can be part of, without question. So, well, we'll move on to question number 3 now. Okay, so let's see. We're getting the tough ones. I think you've been lucky with a couple of quite nice, gentle questions. Let's see what.
I think that second one was a hard question. I'm in the deep end now.
Well, you will be. Hope. Well, we'll see. We'll see. So, what's the most adventurous thing you have ever done?
Just in life or in board games?
I think we'll go with life.
Oh
Surprising.
my. Coming on this podcast. No, I'm gonna say, ooh, I think I think I'm going to go with, wow, the most adventurous thing. Because being a board game guy is not really adventurous, right? You sit in your house all day. But so I think I'm going to have to go with either some of the places I've gone off to study Shakespeare. I spent a summer at the Globe in London. I spent a summer at the American Shakespeare Center in Stanton, Virginia, which is a replica of the Blackfriars Playhouse. But that was taking all of this time, especially when I did the one in Virginia, because I was, already an adult and working and all that, where I'm not making any money. I'm just off and I'm just studying this thing that most people don't care about, heading, which is leading towards a career in a thing that doesn't pay a lot of money because I like it. So maybe that, or yeah, I think it has to be just something. Oh no, I'm a liar. I am such a liar. I started a Shakespeare company that I ran for 10 years. That's absolutely it. That I Yeah, we went to the Middle East and we did Shakespeare in the Middle East, and it was a huge success. And it turned into a Shakespeare company that I ran for 10 years, which we just shut down like 2 months ago. So that is definitely it. Running the Shakespeare company.
Well, that's definitely out there, isn't it? I mean, not many people go to the Middle East, let alone to do some Shakespeare.
It would be shocked how well these. It was at the first thing we did was at Al Ain University on the Al Ain University, which is United Arab Emirates. It's a segregated campus. They have a men's campus and a women's campus, and they face each other. They're like mirrored. Um, and so we were on the women's campus, and we were doing Shakespeare with these college-aged women, and it was amazing how they connected in ways that the Western world does not. like the things that, because they don't know these stories, they didn't know these stories at all. And so the way that they would connect to these stories and they say, oh, yes, this reminds me of X, Y, and Z in my life. And, oh, this reminds me of my friend and of what she did. And oh, yes, Hermia is running away into the woods to get away because she wants to marry this guy. My friend did that, except she ran away to Canada. Like, these are stories that were happening. So I'm going to go with that's the most adventurous thing for sure.
Well, I'm sure lots of people got different types of adventures as well. What they've been, it'd be great to actually hear from others in terms of what adventures they've been involved in. So it'd be great to hear back from others as well. So let's move on to our fourth question, Will, and let's see if we have any regarding the board game industry, because it's all been quite a lot about you and your adventures in life. So question
And
number
we are losing listeners by the second here.
Well, this is a board game one, so let's dive into it. Do you, enjoy playing board games with people who are competitive or who just want to participate and have fun?
I'm going to say yes. So both of them. And one of the great things about running a review channel and being sent a huge variety of games. Like there's a lot that I buy myself. Like I love dungeon crawls. Love dungeon crawls. But so many times I get sent games. I'm like, I don't know about this. But, I think so and so would like this. Oh, I think Matt would really enjoy this game. And so since I've been doing this, I've been exposed to so many different types of games I never would have played before. Along with that comes an enjoyment of deeply competitive games and cooperative games. I will always play a cooperative game. But if I have the right group of people, because we all know there's some people you just don't want to play a competitive game with. It's just not fun. There's a few of those people, but with the right group of people, I love a good competitive game. And I think what helps with that is, with the exception of like one or two games, I don't care if I lose. Like I want to win and I'll play very competitively, but I don't care if I lose. And I think that helps because I find mostly it becomes a bad experience when somebody gets upset if they lose. Like that's when it goes bad. But for the most part, I don't play with those kinds of people, and it helps that, okay, you beat me, whatever. It was fun. Moving on. Because if you think about it, if you play enough games, like if you're winning 15% of the games that you play, you are an amazing board game player. Like we play so many games. You're playing games with, six people. Like I don't know what the math is on that. Like 14% in theory, if it's perfectly even, you're gonna win. So yeah, so I think both. It's funny. My wife, we pretty much only will play competitive game or cooperative games or multiplayer solitaire games because admittedly, she's like, I'm not a very good loser. I get very frustrated. But if I am playing a game with her that's more multiplayer solitaire, and a lot of people slag those games off. I don't. I think they're great. And then it becomes, well, I didn't do anything to you. I didn't ruin your plans because she loves the idea of planning and carrying out a plan to fruition. That in her job, she takes pleasure in that. But if my plan's just better than hers and I did my plan better, it's hard to get mad at that. So the answer is I play almost all games I'm happy to play, except for social deduction games. I don't like those.
So, who's the better game out? You or your wife?
Well, it depends on how you define it. If you want to just talk about win-loss record, me. But I play so many. I will, most games, I will win the first time you play no matter what. If it's something that involves planning, the second or third game, she will start winning, and then she will pretty much always win from there on out because she just has a better mind for that. But if I just had to say who's a better gamer, I would say she is because she doesn't have the passion for it that I do, and she still plays a lot of them. She still finds the one that she enjoys, and every now and then she actually asks to play a game. We took a trip to Chicago to visit my sister recently, and we went to a board game store one day because I asked on Facebook. I was like, "What's the best store in Chicago?" And everyone's like, "It's clearly this one." People were arguing in the comments, "Don't go to this one." Well, I went to the one that was close, is what I went to. But we went there and she's like, "Oh, can we buy this game? Can we buy this game? Can we buy this game?" I was like, "Absolutely." So I think I have to give it to her as the better gamer because it's not her passion, but she finds a lot of enjoyment out of it still.
Yeah, and that's the key thing, enjoyment, and otherwise, what's the point in playing a board game?
Right.
So let's move on to question five, Will. So yeah, you've had quite a couple of little tough ones there, and let's see if we get any more tough ones. So we could be gentle. We will see. So question five coming up: are board games today over convoluted?
No, I'm tempted just to leave it there. No, I don't think so because I mean, there's a game for everybody. There's anything you want. I have a guy he reached out. He wants me to cover a game of his, which is a slightly modified tic tac toe. I mean, that ain't complicated. I don't have it. I haven't seen it, so I don't know how good it is. But I mean, that's not complicated. Now, Frosthaven, yeah, that might be, for some people overcomplicated. Or a game like Feudum or pick a dungeon crawl. But I think it's all about what you're looking for. A friend of mine, he loves super complex games. He loves like John Company, and man, he's got to drag me almost screaming to play that game because it's just so complex. But he loves it like that. He thrives on just learning those rules and the complexity and well, this is representing this thing in history, and so to him it's not. So I'm gonna give a big old no. You just got to find what you're looking for.
Yeah, there's certainly been a debate, I suppose, over the last few years about quite a few people saying board games have gotten over convoluted, and it's now starting to get to the point of being sometimes over bloated, which some people would call. I can see from the games and maybe kind of up to about 2012 were very streamlined and quite straightforward almost. Certainly went that heavy and with very few heavy games then. But now there's a lot, like you say, there's a lot more choice as well and a lot more heavy games. So if you don't want that over what some people may say bloated or convoluted, well, go for quite a simpler, more streamlined game then.
Yeah, I can't. I was while you were talking, I was thinking about it. How many times in recent videos I've recorded, one of the pros I've said is, this is a simple game that doesn't take long to learn, and anybody can play. And I've said that a lot lately. And as I'm looking at my wall over here, I see it's 50-50 of games. I'm like, okay, look, we're going to sit down and I'm going to explain these rules to you for 25-30 minutes versus games where I'm like, okay, we're going to be almost done with the game from my teaching you and playing in 25-30 minutes. Like it's evenly matched across my wall. So I think, yeah, you just got to, what are you looking for? And then go find it. And don't use the BGG top 100 to pick that because those top games are usually pretty darn complicated.
Yes, I think you'll struggle. Well, you might think one or two that are quite streamlined and reasonably straightforward to play, but apart from that, you're right. I think the majority will be quite complicated, especially for someone who's not an experienced gamer.
Yeah, I think that's the key. It's when you played a lot of games, some stuff it just becomes that jargon. Well, it's your industry, so you understand. Like I know what a deck builder is right away. So okay, you say, oh, this is a deck building game. Okay, so I know this. It's a deck building / tableau building game. Okay, I know what these things are. But if you don't know what that means at all, then there's a certain level of there's a learning curve you have to overcome. And I think that's why, like on the BGG lists, they tend to skew heavier because the people who are paying attention to that list and who are rating their games are playing a lot of games. And so they understand all these ins and outs already. So the hard, complex game doesn't feel so complex to them. But when it's someone who doesn't play games, I have several friends I've kind of introduced to games. We started with Parks and we played nothing but Parks for like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 times before like, oh, okay, I think I can handle something a little heavier. And, I learned how to play Parks in 32 seconds and I was ready to go. But just everyone has to kind of build up to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's almost like learn as you go along, and then you can actually start diving deep, unless you're courageous enough to or silly enough to dive into one of those complex games.
Which is why I say my wife's the better gamer because we played all the way through Gloomhaven. And she was like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're having people come over. Sure. What character can I play that smashes things? And that was it. But, for 3 years we played that dumb thing, you know.
She just wants to have fun. So,
Yeah, well,
well,
she just wants to smash things. She doesn't want it complicated. Anytime we play a dungeon crawl, she's like, which one has the biggest hammer? Okay, here you go. All right, I'm in.
she's got it right onto her T. Let's move on to question six. Well, let's see if we can smash this one and let's see what comes out as I try and unravel this one as it gets tangled. So, question six is if you could travel to any point back in time, what year would you choose and why?
Ooh. Well, hmm, that's tough. But I think, and I don't have the exact year, but 1490s, I would love to go see the original performances of Hamlet, the original performance of Henry V. So that's kind of all through that 20-year period. And I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know what year. Actually, I'm going to look it up right now. What year Hamlet was written? But I think that is because it's just been so much a big part of my life, Shakespeare, and all the discussion on, oh, it was done like this, you should do it like this, you should speak like this, to see what did the author actually do would just be so cool. Then, obviously assuming, I'm safe from all the diseases and everything. Oh, sorry, not 14. It's just the 1590s, but looks like 1600 was when Hamlet was first written. 1490. What's wrong with me? It's not Columbus. Um, yeah, 1590s, 1600, right around there to see all those first Shakespeare performances.
You just need to make sure you're wearing the right clothing.
No, no, I've seen Doctor Who. You just show up with whatever you want, and like no one questions them. You know.
Well, they may hope you've got some magical medicine to cure that disease that's out there back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I just assume that's why they drank so much beer, right? Because the water wasn't safe. Something my favorite story about Shakespeare and beer is during one of the Henry plays, they had actual cannons they would set off, obviously with no cannonballs, but it caught the thatch roof of the globe on fire. And it's in the record, historical record, that everyone got out okay. One guy's pants caught on fire, but someone else threw their beer on his butt and put it out so everyone was fine. Like that is historical record. And who doesn't want to live in that time, right?
Well, yeah, I'm sure you'll find some obscure things that have been going on around that for sure. Well, let's hope our next question isn't too obscure as we dive into question seven, Will. So as we see what seven gives us, it is, what is one thing about your favorite game you would change to make it better? Or would you just leave it as it is?
Um, I'm gonna go with there's a couple. I have a hard time picking a favorite game because it's about groups and stuff, but the one that immediately comes to mind is there's some dungeon crawls that I love, but they don't have the fail forward mechanic. In other words, if you lose the scenario, start over and do it again. I if I'm playing by myself, I'll just cheat it. I'll be like, well, I lost, but I really won because I don't want to play this one again. I want to move on. What's the next part of the story? So I would say fail forward mechanic, put it in every single dungeon crawl ever, without question. That like immediately came to mind.
I don't think many people disagree with that. It's a horrible feeling if you go through, especially when you spend an hour and a half, 2 hours going through a campaign to then be told you fail, you have to redo it all over again.
Yep, I was now Gloomhaven is not my favorite dungeon crawl by any stretch of the imagination, but I remember we were playing through and we did that. It was a long 3-hour game, and we lost on the last pull of a card. He just pulled the auto miss card at the end, and just the entire my entire house was just like, well, we wasted that night. I mean, it was just a horrible feeling. And so, yeah, it's the worst. I'm getting all amped up. I'm all excited now.
It's an interesting mechanism that could easily be tweaked, like you say. It's well, what happens if you fail going into the next chapter? Rather than start all over again.
Yeah, it's in some of I think of a game like Madara, which is an insane amount of stuff. But they have this wonderful fail forward. It doesn't matter what happens. You go to a different scenario. Now, and every now and then it'll say at the beginning, it'll be like, just so you know, if you fail again, you got to start over because it's like we're now written into a corner. There's nowhere we can go. You keep failing, try winning for once. But like it's several steps before you get there. And I think it's a lot of work for a design team, I have to imagine, but it's so satisfying because I enter into dungeon crawls usually because I want some kind of story. I want to feel like I'm going on some kind of adventure. And to never be able to fail, it just doesn't necessarily ring true to me because think about every action adventure movie that you watch. The heroes always fail at some point, but they keep going. And I think to me that's what makes those stories so great that, oh well I failed, but we're gonna keep playing. And it takes some of that, oh I have to win, I have to win. Well, that's okay if I didn't win, because I'm gonna get a cool story.
Yeah, hopefully we've got some people tuning in to take note of that because I think a lot of people would welcome some.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we lost the Shakespeare crowd when I said 1400 instead of 1600, so we only got the gamers left. We're good.
So let's move on to the next question. Move on to number 8. So we've got a nice mix so far. So question 8 is, what's a simple board game hack that everyone can benefit from?
So, and I'm going to use visual aids here. One, I have on my game table always right here. I have a bunch of just nice metal coins, always right there, ready to go. And I have a bunch of little clear or red little glass beads and a bunch of dice. It's amazing how many times just having the coins there is like, oh, great. I don't even need to take this out of the bag. I got these things. They're nice. They're fun to play with. Or in dungeon crawls, every dungeon crawl gives you tiny little cardboard shits to mark health and stuff. It is amazing how much faster things are. You just put some dice out there. And those are my hacks. I do it all the time. I do it in my playthroughs when I do them of those things. And I always have to say, none of these don't come with the game, but you should really just spend $5 and buy a bunch of dice.
I certainly agree with metal coins does make a difference, doesn't it, to the feel of a game, and it just brings it to life for some reason. You're actually physically touching real money.
Yeah, and the sound and stuff. I introduced a game to my brother who was visiting, and he doesn't play a lot of games. He was out here for a few days last week, and we were playing a game called Lions of Lydia, a game by Johnny Pack. Didn't do great, but it's a great game. And I have the deluxe edition with the metal coins, and he was sitting there playing. It was like, man, I really like these coins. Like, I feel like I'm doing something important here. I was like, right, you're losing, but go ahead, play with those coins, buddy.
Yeah, it does make a difference, and I suppose for those who haven't actually played a game with metal coins, it does make a difference.
Yeah, it shouldn't, but it's so much more satisfying.
Oh,
That
100%.
that is the deluxe thing that will almost always get me on Kickstarters and stuff. I will almost always go for those metal coins, and it's not healthy.
Feeding your addiction. So let's move on to question 8. So we're almost there. Well, we're on question 9, actually, I should say, not 8, because we've just done 8. So on question 9, which is, what's the last thing you completed that you're proud of? So is it a video, perhaps your content, maybe a review, maybe something in your personal life?
Well, I keep talking about it, but uh, completing the company after the Shakespeare company after 10 years. I mean, that was a big thing. It was something that when we started, I'm going deep into theater stuff here, but one of the things that a lot of small companies suffer from that are founder driven companies and artist driven companies is they don't know when to quit. And then they don't quit until they're going into debt, trying to keep this thing going. And we stopped, and we're still officially winding down with the government and all those things, but we are leaving, and we are going to be able to donate a significant amount of money to some other theater companies around the area. So not only did we stop, I never took out any of my own money. There was never any of that danger, which is, again, it's huge in small theater here in America. And we're going out with, huge successful show, and we paid artists hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we're going to be able to still send it on. So I'm going to say that there's that one. I think it is definitely on the top. As far as gaming goes, there is a game that just funded on GameFound, late pledge soon, called Coloma New Prospects. And I, just as a fan, made a solo mode for the original Coloma because I didn't like the one that came in the game. It just didn't work for me. And it got picked up by the publisher and is the official solo mode in the new version of the game. So those are my two things.
Fantastic. And yeah, just go to there's a lot of people that do their own solos, isn't it? And throw up a Board Game Geek where you can upload documents.
Yeah, it was just an interesting thing that one of the and I know the designer, Johnny Pack. He's kind of local to here, and we talked about it at one point, and he's like, well, could you make this work with the new stuff that's coming, and we'll put it in the game if you can do it. I was like, yeah, let's make that happen. And that is, it's the coolest thing. And the final stretch goal didn't even tell me, or they made a Meeple for the solo AI bot. It's a picture of me in a cowboy hat that the Miko did. So it's so cool.
Yeah, certainly something to be proud of. Let's see if you're proud of how you tackle the scenario then. Well, so
Oh, I'm so stressed out about this scenario. You have no idea.
I can't even remember what they are, so I can't give you any tips. Right, we're going to pull this one out. Let's see what it is. So the scenario is quite a long one. So this, well, actually, it kind of fits in slightly. So you wake up one day, just like you have now. You turn on the TV and put on YouTube. There are endless reports that the industry has collapsed and all the large board game companies have folded. What do you do?
I guess celebrate that I got a room full of games. I got it. Ooh. Um, Honestly, I guess I'd have to make a reaction video because I guess it'll be my last chance. Um, probably, I'd probably message a whole bunch of people. When you do this long enough, you do develop friendships with people in the industry. I think of people like Peter Vaughn from Cardboard Alchemy, Daniel George from August Games, Johnny Pack that I just mentioned, because that suddenly means it's one thing for me to think, okay, well, no new games coming, but I mean, I have enough games to play forever. Like forever I can play these games. But for them, that would be their livelihood was gone. And that's when you got to reach out to people and be like, okay, well, how can I help you? Wow, how depressing. Are all your scenarios depressing?
But actually, that's probably one of the most depressive ones.
Man, wow. I'd message you, be like, well, what are you going to do now? I guess you have a whole thing where you can talk to people who now have nothing to do because there's no board games anymore.
Well, yeah, I think I'd thrive under that. I think it would be an interesting scenario. There's always ways to build things back up again, isn't there? It's about people. I remember, and I'll get to give actually a bit of insight here. I don't want to give too insight into me. So in the what was known as the happy hardcore scene, it was dying, and literally it was dying. So what happened? All the producers got together and said, "We've got to do something. We have to, otherwise we don't have a job." So they did that and they said, we're going to revive the sound of it. And they did exactly that. And they reformed it, called it UK Hardcore. And it sounds completely different to what it was in the 90s to how it has from the noughties. And that revived it. And it now kind of almost outgrew what it was in the 90s. So there's ways to revive things.
Yeah, but boy, someone's got to do it, you know?
Well,
And like,
yeah, it takes a few people to say, like, let's get around the table, let's get a head together, let's see what we can do to revive this. What angle do we need to come at, and what's everyone's part in this process? Because if we don't all work together, it'll never work.
so I'm going to turn around on you. So as collapses, who are the first two or three people that you're going to say, okay, we're going to bring this back? Who pretend that you can contact anybody. Who are you going to bring this back?
Um, I think one person that reach out to is Jamie Stonemeyer, because obviously he's built something from scratch and he's got great community engagement. And I think you need someone it's like that who can reach out to people, because if you haven't got the customers, you can't rebuild something. So you need to be engaging with the communities. And I think he'd help with that. There's a few other people to consider. I've forgotten the name. He's probably going to kill me because I've forgotten the name of them. Um, but I think he'd be one of the people I'd get hold of. I would certainly think about a couple of as you know, people might say the big daddies like Brian Canizia and reaching out to them and seeing whether we can get our heads together to say we need to revise something. But I would also reach out to the likes of the Dice Tower to say, look, we've got a problem here. We need to get a few people together because we can get the community behind us. There's more likely that people will jump on and start getting involved and reviving the industry. Because some things go in troughs, don't they? You have the housing market collapses, then rises again. So it was about, well, how can we get it rising again? If people stop talking about it, well, it'll die completely. So we need to get people talking about it to try and get people back into the industry. And I think the more we do that, the better it will be. So that's what I would do. In terms of the third person, I have no idea. But those are the kind of top two I'd go to first because they've got a community presence. And I think that's so important. And perhaps a top designer that we can get involved to start reviving the industry. Perhaps someone who's got a lot of connections with these publishers as well. And that's really key.
Okay, now I want to one more and put you on the spot. Top designers. Who are your top designers? And this is where you get to alienate so many people. This is very exciting.
I wouldn't say I've got a top one. Do you know what? I'm one of these people, right? And I do this with films. And when I'm watching a film, I don't care who's made the film. I don't even care who's acting. In fact, I'd rather watch a film where I don't even know the people because I don't want to be influenced by, who's made it. And I was like that with games. I don't care who's made it. I don't care who's designed it, who's done the artwork. I just care if I enjoy that game. Now, I do occasionally, if there's certain kind of games that I'm not particularly keen of, I think avoid those games that person made. I'm not going to name it now, but I have to avoid those games because I think, well, I don't like that style. But generally, I don't look. If you put me in the spot now and said, who are you what game designs do you enjoy? I would struggle to give you names because I don't even bother looking at the box for who designed what. I just like the game for what it is, not by who's made it. So I'm not I suppose I see it as a world of I'm not a sheep who follows the commands that people write or follows the trails of because that designer's designed these games, I'm not automatically going to be buying those games. I don't care if they designed it or not.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's a few of the designers that everyone would name. And I think I say I just don't like their games very much. And so I'm not going to say them either because I don't want to get myself in trouble. But it's an interesting thing that I've noticed. A few of them, the people was, oh my gosh, the latest game by blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, well, I'll be ignoring that campaign. But on the other end, like you, there's very few designers I'm like, ooh, they have a design. I have to check it out. I will always check out Johnny Pax, but that's because I've usually seen them prior because I see him, at conventions, the small local conventions. Like, hey, you want to try the new thing I'm working on? I'm like, okay. But I guess Skippy Brown. I'll always check his out because he's my brother and I have to. And he's got his first game coming out. But yeah, that's about it for me. Um, I wouldn't go to my brother to revive the industry though. Not him. Not him.
We'll stick with the influencers, shall we? So, well, that brings us to the end of the show, and we hope you've enjoyed that. And we would love to hear the views from all you out there. If you enjoyed the show, any particular highlights, please let us know. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing as well, because the more we get involved and the more people that actually jump on, well, the bigger this grows as well, just like the industry. So we hope you enjoyed that. And well, thank you so much for getting involved. We hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, please take care.
Thank you so much for having me.